Hello, welcome back. Spring is in the air, we've got a skip and we are taking on some new projects. So I thought it was high time I did a bit of a renovation update and talked you through what we're up to. So first up, at the front of the house, we've got our porch. Now, it was always part of our plan to build a porch, but we didn't put in for planning permission for it originally because we weren't sure how big it was going to be and exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted to get the rest of it done, and then we decided to have a look at this kind of in isolation. Now, if we'd only wanted a small porch of 3 square metres, we wouldn't have actually needed planning permission anyway, but because we've got a reasonable sized front garden, we decided we would still be able to park our cars and have a bit of a bigger porch. So we've gone to almost 6 square metres instead. So therefore we did need planning permission, but because we're not putting any heating into it and we're just using it for storage and we're going to have an actual external door on it, then we didn't actually need to get building regulations, which did save us some money, so that was good. And retrospectively, if we decide in the future that we do want to heat it for any reason, then we can always apply for those afterwards, as long as we make sure obviously we meet all of those regulations. What we are going to do, however, is make sure it's really well insulated, because one of our reasons for wanting to build a porch was because our house is north facing and we've just got a single skin wall at the front near where the front door is, and that means that it never gets that warm there. Those walls are a real cold spot of the house, so a lot of the moisture in the winter gets drawn there, and we have had a bit of a damp and mould problem. Now, we've done lots of other things to rectify that problem, like make sure all the extraction's really good in all of the rooms where there's moisture, like the bathroom and the kitchen, so that's helped. We haven't managed to resolve it completely, so we're keen just to put in a layer of protection to hopefully remedy that completely. The other reason we wanted a porch was because, like most people, we've got lots of shoes, 2 boys with football boots and footballs and football cones and mud and just stuff everywhere. So it's really nice if you have space to be able to just keep all of that stuff out of your house and not to actually take shoes into the house at all. So just from a kind of hygiene and health perspective, that was something we wanted to do. The space that we're building, we're going to have plenty of room to do that, and also to just kind of store bits and pieces as well that currently we're doing in our utility room, which has got a bit overwhelmed with that kind of stuff. So hopefully that can go back to being just a complete utility space. But let me show you around. So in terms of the build of the porch itself, it's going to be a bit of a mixture of us doing what we can and then getting the professionals in where we need them. So we've made a start, as you can probably see, digging the foundations, and this was just a bit of hard work really. Even the kids got involved at one point. I have to say, I didn't do that much of the digging myself, but I did do the tea making. But what we've done is gone down, we can see actually here where the original foundations of the house are, so that's quite cool to see. But things that we had to be careful of when we were digging these were things like the utilities and services and things. So we've got our internet here, which we obviously didn't want to go through when we were doing the digging. We had to break up the concrete on top, so we were using a Kango for that, so we had to be particularly careful there. We've also got a water main that's running through here, so we had to be very careful first of all not to go through that, and then also we're going to have to relocate that so that that's not stuck in the foundations of the porch. So once the foundations are hunky-dory, the next bit is going to be getting the concrete in. Now, because we've got a couple of other jobs on, which I'll show you in a minute, around the side and around the back, we are going to actually get a concrete lorry rather than mixing it all ourselves, because it's obviously a lot easier and we can justify the cost because we've got a few jobs to do. So that will then make that a bit quicker to do. So we'll then be obviously shoveling it and wheelbarrowing it all in here, and we'll build those up. Once we've done that, we'll be ready for the actual brickwork, and we're going to try and match the brickwork to the side of the extension. So that was a challenge in itself, because it was some time since we built that and we've had to go out and find the same bricks, which I think we've finally done. We got a few samples and matched them up. We found something that's certainly close enough. So we're going to get some professionals in to do that, because if we were rendering it, it's something that we might consider doing ourselves, but because we're going to have the bare brickwork on show, we obviously want it to look as good as possible. We're also then going to get a professional in to do the roof. In terms of what we're actually kind of speccing in the porch itself, we're not going to have a window because we want to have maximum storage. We're going to have a little storage area to the right as you come out the front door, and then more storage down here where I'm standing basically, which is going to be brilliant because we're going to have loads of space. But we thought if you start putting a window in, then you reduce the space that you can use in terms of hanging coats and things. So we're going to go for a roof light instead, because that'll still bring light into the room, but hopefully keep it nice and secure as well. So that'll be good. In terms of a front door, we've been having a look at a few ideas. There's lots of kind of new, more modern designs out there. We'll probably go for something slightly modern, but it needs to be in keeping with the house as well. So I'll put a couple of links on actually to some that we've seen that we like. Tell me what you think. Do you like them? Any front doors that you've seen that you think would look better? I'd love to hear. We're also going to go for a camera for security so we can see who's at the front door. We've actually got one from Swan, which they just happened to very kindly offer us, that we're going to use because it obviously fits in with the build. So that will be part of what we have at the front door. In terms of other things, we've just got to choose the roof light, and I think for the flooring, we're more than likely going to carry on the Karndean that we've got in the rest of the house, just for the continuity, and because so far we found it a really good kind of durable floor, easy to clean, doesn't get too cold. It should be fairly warm even if we haven't got the underfloor heating, so we think that'll work well, whereas something like tiles probably might get a bit too cold given that this side of the house is quite cold anyway. The other thing that we're going to think about carefully is the insulation, so we'll make sure that we've got an insulated floor, and we'll make sure that we've got really decent insulation in the walls, because we're hoping that even without heating, that's really going to make this space a lot warmer and provide that protection to the front of the house. So now I'm in the side alley, and the thing that connects the three spaces that we're going to work on together is the fact that we need some concrete or some cement for all of the spaces. And so we've worked out at the front that we're going to need about 2.4 metres cubed to do the foundations for the porch. We also need some down the side to just basically straighten out this path. We never used to have a path here before. It used to be the side annex that we knocked down to build our extension, but we made a path in the process. And all we did really was make it kind of reasonably safe to walk along initially. So we've made it flat when you come out of the back door so that you're not going to trip over and you're not walking onto an uneven surface. But then we've basically got a slope that goes about 10 metres down to the garden, and we need to make that good because at the moment it's all over the place. So sounds fairly straightforward until you get to the drains. Let me show you. So this is the slightly challenging part we've had of sorting this pathway out. These are our drains, which, as you can see, nice shiny new covers here. But if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you might have seen the previous video I made about moving drains, because when we put the extension up, our drains actually used to be on the patio, which was where the extension now is. So we had to reroute these, which was a big job in itself. At the time, we just popped them out here and we didn't know exactly what level we were going to need them at. So we just put them at the easiest level at the time, and then we had to work out exactly what we were doing around here. Now, obviously, as I explained, we've got a slope to the garden, so we had a few options, and one thing we considered doing first of all was raising the drains and having, so we've got the flat bit at the top and then having a gradient and then going flat again so that we could just build them up with a couple of layers of bricks, and then having another gradient down to the bottom of the garden. But we thought that probably wasn't that safe because you don't kind of naturally walk down hills like that, and it might be a bit of a recipe for twisting your ankle or falling over. So we've decided to go for the more labour intensive option of building them up. So we had to build them up by one brick layer each, and then we had to basically set them at an angle using the concrete, so building them up at the back. So we used a string line to do that, worked out what angle we needed the pathway to be at. Now they're in place, and we just, once we get that mix and mate lorry in, we're just going to then fill around the edges. I think the really nice thing about getting the mix and mate lorry in is that we will then get lots of jobs done in one day, and it'll be a really good progress day. So it's going to be good, but it is obviously equally still going to be quite hard work to get all that concrete down, and we're going to have to get it into the back, into the basement first, then do the path, and then we can do the foundations at the front. So it's going to be a pretty busy little day. So we've already worked out that we need 2.4 cubic metres for the foundations out the front, but now I need to know how much we're going to need around here to finish this path off, and then in the basement in a moment. So I've got my trusty little laser measurer here, and this is the part of the path that we're going to join up to. So if I just set it from here, I can calculate. So this is 4.43, and then need to work out the width, which obviously isn't completely consistent, but we'll go in the middle. .69, and then we're looking at about a 0.3 metre depth. So if we times all those together, then we'll get our cubic meterage. So I just did a quick calculation on my phone, and it's going to come to about 2.23 cubic metres that we're going to need down for this bit. Let's go and have a look in the basement. Something else just worth noting on this side bit is that we're obviously going to be pouring concrete onto a slope, which is gravity's involved, not necessarily going to work out too great unless we shutter it. So we are going to have to create some kind of shutter system when we do this bit. Or we'll have a concrete filled garden, concrete swimming pool. So this is the basement area, which you may or may not have seen, depending on how many of my videos you've watched. But basically we got to the point of we've just got a sand floor in here, so we've got nothing down at all. So we need to get concrete base in before we can start finishing off the rest of it. So I'll just take our calculation in here, and then that'll give us our total amount of concrete that we need. 1.6 by 4.11. So timesing both those measurements by 0.1, because we don't need it to be quite as deep down here, that gives us less than a cubic metre. So altogether we've got, that comes to 5.6 cubic metres. I've actually just realised we've got a little bit out here to do as well, and you've got to account for wastage generally. So if we go to 6 metres cubed, then that's a good amount, and I think that should cover us. So £600, it's not the cheapest thing in the world to do, and we may well possibly need some labour to help us get it all done, and to obviously get it done as quickly as possible, because the lorries don't want to be there forever. But equally, if we tried to do it all ourselves, I think it would just be such a laborious, painful process, and it wouldn't be much fun. So it'll be an expensive day, but it'll also progress things a lot, so it should be a good day when we come to do it. So one other thing just to note about the basement, we've got quite steep steps going down here, so actually faffing around with a wheelbarrow is probably not going to be the easiest way to get it in here. So we're going to create some kind of chute. We've got a few bits of old board and things down here, and we think that'll be a much quicker and easier way to get it in. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this video and found it useful, please do give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think of what we're up to in the comments down below. If you've got any ideas or suggestions of any easier way to do any of it, I'm always up for hearing those. If you're new here, I would love it if you would subscribe as well. I post lots of content about house renovations and DIY and all of that stuff. And make sure you stay tuned to hopefully see us successfully complete this project very soon. Bye bye for now.